This morning, we welcome Rachel Reimer, the founder of Ray of Hope LLC. Rachel is a medical intuitive. And good morning. Good morning, Rachel.
Good morning, Jim.
Now, you live in the middle of the United States.
I do. I live in Iowa. So there are not a lot of people that do the work that I do in the Midwest. So I'm always happy to connect with other people of like mind.
The thing is that you do work all over the world, though.
I do. So that's actually what's keeping me grounded right now. So right now I have clients in the US, Canada, Europe, and Australia at the moment.
That is so fantastic. I can say that this podcast is heard and downloaded in all those areas. And I'm very proud of that we have about a quarter of our listeners are from outside of the United States. You're going to hopefully connect up with a lot of different people. So that's really cool. You are still quite a young person, but you started Ray of Hope LLC when you were just 23 years old, I think.
Yeah, that's right. So I was really contemplating with, you know what, I feel like I'm being guided to do something with the perception that I have, and I don't really know what that is. And there wasn't really a role model for that capacity of what I was thinking of. So it took me a lot of time and effort and vision to just sit down and go, you know what, I think I want to try to do something like this of helping people with chronic health issues. And I've been doing it since 23. I've loved it. I've worked with all kinds of different conditions across the board, from minor aches and pains to stage 4 cancer. And it's been a roller coaster, and I'm happy to keep doing it.
Oh my goodness. I'm so happy for you that it has really blossomed like it has. And that's so great because you're doing such great work. You've been so successful in doing this, and that's thrilling to me. It's great. It just shows that our society is accepting of things, alternatives. And well, I think a little bit has to do with the fact that I think your motto or your mission statement is to help people who have given up on their bodies.
Yeah. And it's such a large issue that so many clients that I work with have gone through the medical rabbit hole. They go to their primary care physician, they go to a specialist, they get all their lab works done, they do the tests, and things come back fine. And they're like, that's great. I still feel terrible. Can we do something about this? And that's normally where I come into the picture, into the puzzle of, okay, you do what you can to take care of yourself physically, and that's great. Let's see if there's an emotional component involved. And that's something that I'm really passionate about. I think a majority of chronic and complex health issues have some kind of emotional stressor. And I found that once you identify the emotional stressor, not just my life is messy or I have several things going on, but the really specific emotional stressor, you pinpoint that, you work on that, I find the physical body starts to function a lot better afterwards.
That is so great. Now, I want to start off earlier in your life where you kind of got the foundation for how you are qualified in a way to do this work. And I just want to preface it by saying that you and I talked before to get ready for today's interview, and some of these things are pretty personal, but you authorized me to go into them because it might help someone else that is in that same situation and might think they're crazy or something's wild, or they need to know that this has happened to someone else. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's very fair to say. That's very generous to say too. A lot of the work that I end up doing to help people find those specific emotional stressors is based off of prayer and some source of spirituality and meditation of, let me just sit with your case. Let me see what's coming up from my perspective. Let me see if I can help you track down what that is. And to be able to get to that point of helping people pinpoint that has been an absolute nightmare for me, and something that I would love to talk about in more depth and detail so that people don't necessarily have to go through that messy journey that I did. So
excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. The situation that we're going to talk about, the messy nightmarish one, started when you were pretty young, and at nighttime you would see like black shadows above you and have a feeling of impending doom and things like that. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So the way I've been thinking about this over the past few weeks since we talked is when you're a little kid and you snuggle into bed, there's this common fear of there's monsters under my bed or there's monsters in my closet. And that felt like a very real experience for me. And looking back retrospectively, I believe that they were beings that meant no good for me. They did not wish me the best in my life. And I do not think that they were beings of God or of a higher order being or universe created in good. And those beings really plagued me for pretty much my entire childhood. Every single night, I did not get good sleep. I would be poked, prodded, pushed, hair pulled, like anything that you could kind of imagine in that realm of whatever the beings under my bed or the beings in my closet would be of that, bringing that to life and kind of being tortured in that capacity. And
Well,
also during the day too.
let me interrupt you right there and step back a little bit. You're a little kid, you're trying to sleep. And did you say that you were like physically poked?
Yeah. So it felt like someone, almost like a stranger, broke through the front door of my house, walked into my bedroom, and would like stand at the foot of my bed or stand in the doorway very menacingly. Almost imagine someone with a ski mask on. If you went to bed tonight and before you go to bed every single night, someone is ominously standing at the foot of your bed with that ski mask on very intimidatingly.
I wouldn't be able to sleep.
Yeah. And feeling like you don't have any control over that process.
Right.
Or as a kid, would you tell them to go away? It doesn't do anything.
Right. Where's the safety? Where's the comfort of my own home and my own bed? Not there. You didn't have that.
Correct. And that's been a huge part of my own spiritual growth and practice, is putting in those protection mechanisms and really channeling my personal relationship with God so that those things don't continue to happen in my life. To make sense of that and why that happened, I think that they were aware of this extra perception that I had. And it was more of a, if you try to explore this even further, we're going to double down on our efforts and really scare the crap out of you.
Okay.
So it's almost like, hey, you're a threat. We're going to try to take you out when you're young. That's the way that I've viewed it, perceived it.
Wow. They were doing a pretty good job of getting to you, though.
Yeah,
right?
I would say they won for a majority of my life at this point, and they did a good job of it. I'll give them that.
I mean, that's no joke. In doing these interviews over a couple of years, I've heard people talk about the higher vibrations. And sometimes if I'm in a group and we're going to go on some kind of a trip together of people, they'll say things like, this is protected from all the lower forms, or that this is protecting love and light. And there are certain like mantras or whatever that they'll say to try to make sure that the lower frequencies don't come through. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about here, is that you didn't have any protection from them. And I agree with you. They saw you as a soul in this life that was a threat to them.
Yeah. And over time, what I've really experimented with is, what are those protection mechanisms that actually work for me? I think that's a very individual process. What I have found that works best for me tends to be more rooted in the Catholic faith, where you would think of like your traditional exorcism kind of things, of binding prayers, holy water, the Eucharist in the background on the YouTube video, the rosary. Like, I have found those things to bring me immense comfort. And they may not bring comfort to other people. I have found that, like, outside of a religious scope, like sage can be really helpful, or black onyx can be really helpful. The thing that worries me, though, about having physical protection tools is that they're not always available. If you're in the shower, you're not going to be burning sage in the shower. Like, you got to have something else going on that you can count on to help you out.
No, unless you're walking around constantly with a necklace of certain crystals or something like that, or even in the shower, right? You are being exposed there. And yeah, I really view such credit to be tough and to get through this. And I want to just comment on, many times when I talk to people that I'm meeting and they say, well, now that you're retired, what do you do? And I tell about this podcast. And if they are people who are devout Christians, they tend to just shut me right off. Like, oh, you're working with these things that you can't see in the other world and whatever. So you must be against Christ and you must be against God or whatever. I'm not sure what they think, but I know that I've many times been, oh no, I'm religious. I can't get into that. But what you're saying is that's not the way it works with you. Yeah, as a matter of fact, you get your most comfort for being involved in a Christian religion, Catholicism.
That's what I find to be true. When the point comes up of very people rooted in like, traditional religious values, I don't disagree with probably a majority of their points at all. I think their concern is normally rooted in, do you know for certain that you are talking with a being of good? That's the common concern that I hear. So when I work with people, what I try to make very clear, if that is a concern of theirs, is that this is my foundation and what my beliefs are rooted in. I sit here in imaginative prayer or contemplation or meditation or whatever you want to call it,
Right.
of making sure that I'm connecting to something good. I think that there's a legitimate point that sometimes when people are sitting in that meditative space or that intuitive space, that they don't know who they're asking or who they're connecting to. And I think that's a really valid point to be concerned about. So I think it's more of just the wording of it. When I phrased it like that, I don't perceive that most people have an issue with that. I haven't come across that anyway.
Okay. That's great. Well, let's go back to the spot where you're young and you're having these things. Now, this continued for a period of time. Did your mom get involved at all with trying to comfort you or something like that or help you?
Yeah. So the only thing that I could really do to sleep at night is that if I just said, Mom, can you please just lay next to me? Just another human being. And for whatever reason, I have found that some human beings have a more innate sense of protection, like things just don't bother them. For whatever reason, she tended to be more of that, where they just didn't mess with her. She's just like, it's this idea with women where you have some women that are more prone to gossip than others that are just like, I'm not participating in that. And that's just their general demeanor. And that feels very true with my experience with my mom. She says, I don't mess with the bad stuff. It's not even a conversation on the table. We're not doing it. And because that was her general demeanor, I felt great comfort in that. And I could sleep a lot better, which I was very grateful for.
Yes.
Didn't have that presence. Yeah, I would have struggled. I would have been way more sleep deprived.
I've interviewed some people this one really, really nice lady, Rhonda, that I used to do a podcast with. She would say that when she was in elementary school, rather than swinging on the swings and during recess, she would go over to the edge of the playground, which was right next to a church cemetery, and she would converse with the spirits that hadn't moved on yet and talk with them. And so this was just normal thing to her. It was nothing odd or whatever. Just that's the way it was with her. Did you have anything along those lines where you had a natural connection?
With the beings that did not wish me the best, I shut that down real quick. And I don't want to go there. I don't want to interact with you, anything like that. And it's from my perception anyway, it's pretty easy to tell if someone is for you or against you.
Okay, right.
With the beings that were of good, I really didn't, or people that have passed away that we loved, from my perspective, I really didn't interact with them until early 20s, I would say. They normally were just in the background. The way I describe it is almost imagine you go over to someone's house. You don't tend to look for their Kleenex boxes or electrical outlets. They're in the background, but you know that they're there. And I think I really started to have that perception in high school that this is a thing that other people aren't perceiving, of like slowly sussing that out. And because that's not a normal thing that we talk about, we don't talk about it. It's on the outskirts. They're not hurting me. We're just going to leave them be, leave them alone.
Okay. We'll just live and let live.
Yes. I desire to be normal, of like, I don't want to interact with the bad, because maybe if I interact with the neutral or the good over here, the bad's going to get worse. So just let me live my life.
Yeah. And you had some considerable physical problems during your childhood or high school years. Could you talk about that a little, please?
Yeah. So late middle school into high school, I started to get really sick. And the same thing with a lot of my clients. You go through the medical rabbit hole, you're not really finding out any answers. In later high school, got to the point where it was really hard to just sit up and function. Like sitting up for more than 5 minutes at a time felt really painful for me because I was so inflamed and swollen all over my chest and just
Well,
in chronic
let me
pain.
just back up right there. It's easy for you to say that sentence, couldn't sit up for 5 minutes, but I'm trying to imagine your life. I mean, you were a schoolgirl, right?
Yeah.
And you wanted to be doing things like everybody else, but instead you were racked with pain and so much that you couldn't even sit up. That's so wild. And how did you cope with it?
I think community was really helpful for me during that time. I played in the high school orchestra and I got a lot of comfort in that. I tried to make those practices as much as I possibly could. That requires a lot of sitting up.
Okay.
Though I missed a lot of school. I think
All right.
specifically junior and senior year, they didn't even want me to graduate because I missed so much school, even though
Oh,
I had all of my work done. Like it was good to go. It almost opened a weird random door for me. I was like, I've missed 4 days and I'm coming back ahead. What have you guys been doing? I got this done in 15 minutes. I don't understand what's happening. That's a whole other miscellaneous tangent, but it got to that level of severity where I just wasn't able to function really well anymore, mentally or physically.
I mean, did you go to doctors, I guess, and get it checked out?
Yeah. I went to so many different doctors, rheumatologists, and just here's some anti-inflammatories. We don't really know what's going on with you. We maybe think it's this specific inflammatory condition.
Right.
Take meds, do the best you can, maybe get some injections in between your ribs every 3 months for the rest of your life. I'm like, that sounds like a terrible idea. I
That
don't
doesn't
want to do
sound
that.
good at all.
Yeah.
We'll treat the symptoms and see if you can survive, kind of thing. That
Yeah.
doesn't sound great at all. And but this has not continued to that level of severity now. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I have very minor musculoskeletal issues now. We're sitting up the entire interview. I'm not having
Yes.
any kind of pain or discomfort whatsoever. I'm able to work all day as long as I want to. Like, I'm online. Very rarely am I having any issues. And that's something that I really like to tell my clients too, is that if I can go from barely
Yeah.
sitting up for 5 minutes a day to having a full functioning life, I believe that you're capable of it too.
Yes.
I'm disagreeable enough to be like, I don't want injections in my rib cage every 3 months for the rest of my
Right.
life and to take anti-inflammatories that are going to destroy my body if I take them long term. There's got to be something else.
Well,
And yeah.
yes, that's what I'm saying is that you are uniquely qualified to be able to say to somebody, listen, I'm just a person just like you. I had this horrible situation and look where I am. You can do it. And so that's fantastic. And what happened? I mean, how did you go from unable to sit up to making some progress on it?
So step one is always physical stability. With my case and with the case of my clients is do what you have to do just to be able to have some kind of brain function where you can
Right.
think clearly and function semi well. So I really started off in the diet category as far as like functional holistic realm goes. And that's actually where I met my mentor. I just came in for a new client consultation and she sat down with me. She went through the whole spiel and she was like, look, I think that you can definitely help yourself physically. Like maybe don't eat so many brownies if you're inflamed all the time. I'm like, that's solid advice. I'm not going
Right.
to disagree with that. And she gave me some really clear cut, tangible takeaways with that too. But most importantly, and she's such a special relationship in my heart. Most importantly, she looked me in the eye and she's, you have a lot of emotional and spiritual stuff going on with your case. And if you don't address that, I don't think you're going to get better. I think you'll feel a little bit better with your dietary changes and maybe be a bit more stable. I don't think you're going to get better unless you deal with this. And a little bit of context before that conversation happened. When I walked into this clinic to see her for this new patient visit, down the hallway, they have a little library in their office. Down the hallway, they had this door open to a library. And there's this large table and there's this huge binder just filled with financial information. And there's someone sitting there going through the financial information binder. And I understood that person had passed just based off of their physical appearance. No one else is aware of that. And at the end of our conversation that she had with me of mentioning the emotional and spiritual root, she said, "Oh, don't worry about the gentleman that you see back in the library that's flipping through the binder. That's the owner's dad. He's just checking in to make sure things are okay." And I just go, just blank, as you've said something that no one else in my world has ever acknowledged. I didn't tell her about any of this. And it's one of those things where you peek open the door a little bit just to see how receptive the other person is. And she did that. And I shut down and I really had to go home and think about it. And then I kept coming to see her, and slowly our relationship would build where we'd ask those questions, smaller and smaller questions. And eventually she really just took me under her wing as one of her own children and just really taught me everything that she knows.
Oh my goodness. I could just cry hearing about that moment when all of a sudden the key to your situation just got turned in the lock, kind of that. Yeah, I understand you. I get it. And that must have been such a welcome moment, that here you are like an island out here trying to make it through life. And then this lady just honed right in on it. It's must have been wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, although scary.
Both. Yeah. It's a very vulnerable experience to not verbally share yourself with someone, but then see you as you are. Yeah.
Right. Whoa. That's like, you're getting this. That is really, really something. So I'm so happy for that. Now, as I hear you talking about that, I can't help but make a comment that, in my opinion, this is not anyone else's, but this is in my opinion, that connection with your mentor there in that office involving the nutritional thing, that wasn't an accident that happened. I believe that was ordained by Spirit, because you have a job to do in this life, and that was meant to be, and that connection has started to get you where you are right now. So that's just my little opinion. And so I think it's wonderful. So you got started and you made some progress then from then on with your mentor.
Yes. So I worked with her from 2013 to 2017. So I worked with her for a good 4 years. And those first 2 years of just being transparent were absolutely miserable. And it wasn't anything that she was doing. It's just sticking in there and going, I'm still sick. And she's like, are you willing to go to this level, Rachel, to deal with this emotional thing? And I said, not yet. And she's like, that makes sense why you're still sick then. She was a very much a tough love kind of cookie. She used to be an EMT. She would drive race cars. She drove a Harley Davidson motorcycle. She could kick my ass to Timbuktu. Like, she was just, she met me on my disagreeableness. I am a very stubborn person in certain regards in my life. And every step of the way, she would meet me right where my threshold was. And I'm so appreciative of that in retrospect.
Yes.
I cannot go there today. And she's like, I think you can. I'm like, I don't think I can. And it's this constant battle back and forth. And I find that most people that I personally work with don't need that kind of care. There's occasionally a few people that I work with that do, but it's such a loving effort to love someone and care for someone that much that you're willing to sit with them on that huge tension and just go bit by bit with them and go, I see how horrifying this is for you. I promise you with my whole entire heart, you will not die if you work on this specific piece. And that's really what I tell people too, especially when they have a huge health issue going on, is there's likely something extremely painful going on that you're like, I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. I will sit here with you and walk you through it. I have not found that any emotion has ever conquered anyone to the point of physical. It may feel like it, but it has not physically happened, and it won't physically happen.
Wow, that is fantastic. It really is. Now, when you're talking about going through this process, and there was no magic wand that could be put over it. You didn't just automatically, someone says this key phrase and then now you're well. It was work. You had to do the work. And it made me think of someone who works in a factory and starts off sweeping the floors and then works their way up and does every single job and then becomes the manager or the head of the factory. And they know how to do they've been through everything, all the problems that could happen. They've been there. And that's kind of like your situation, is you had a really bad situation, and you just little by little, you worked on it and worked on it to get to be able to function like you are now. And you can just bring that to your clients just as, yeah, you can do it. You really can.
I think
And I'm
that's
sure they feel that. I'm sure they feel that coming from you.
yeah, I think that's a great description. I've never heard it put like that, but I love that. I might keep that actually.
Feel it if you want.
Yeah, what I try to tell people is that, especially when there's that resistance or that tension of, I don't
Right.
want to go there.
Yep.
I bring it more back to personal experience. This is what I did. This is the result that I got. Anytime that I've worked with someone and they have not done, this is the result that they have gotten. I really recommend not doing this. I cannot stop you. I do not have autonomy over your body or your spirit.
Right.
I would highly recommend you don't do this. Please let my pain and suffering mean something so that you don't have to do the exact same thing that I did. Let me save you some years off of this.
What a wonderful opportunity for you. I would think that as people make progress, that must be a great feeling for you, that you're able to bring them along. We're getting fairly close to the end of this episode, but I want to just read this testimonial, if I could, from your website. All right. I started working with Rachel around the end of 2019. I had been suffering from chronic upper respiratory allergies for several years. I had been to many doctors who would put me on all kinds of prescription medications just to receive no relief and repeat the cycle every 6 weeks. I had heard about her on a regular podcast I listened to, and I was literally willing to try anything to get better, and decided to look into booking with Rachel. In that first session, Rachel immediately identified what the root cause was. She worked with me in a way I'd never experienced. Since that first session, I have not had any type of upper respiratory allergies. I've been working with her now for almost 6 years. Rachel really opened me up to a whole different idea, to healing and learning what disease really means. Whenever I feel off or sick or have some kind of physical symptoms that telling me something isn't aligned, I book an appointment with Rachel immediately. Now, there's a little bit more too, but I love that you didn't write that, but it's such a tribute to you. And I think it describes a typical person's experience as far as coming in with having, I've done it all and I'm getting no relief. Can you help me?
Yeah. And the person's testimonial that you read on her first visit, like, that was accurate. If she was really willing to do anything. And I really went there and took her to her own personal hell on the first, I think, 2 sessions, and really said, I think this is the core of it from my perspective when I really sit in meditation and prayer on it. Are you willing to go there? And she said, yes. I don't normally get permission to do that on the first visit. So that was a treat for me. And I don't expect people to be willing to do that on the first visit. I think establishing trust is really helpful. I wouldn't have done something like that on the first visit. So she went balls to the walls, and I love her for that. I'm so grateful for our relationship in that capacity.
You didn't threaten to like arm wrestle her or anything.
No. I will if I have to get someone to get there, assuming it won't hurt me or hurt them. But I will definitely be like, hey, this is the thing today. Let's tackle this. I think this would be helpful.
We're out of time for this interview, but I'm really dying to ask more and to go through a regular treatment and get more into how you do what you do. Would you come back and have another interview with me? I really would appreciate it.
I'd be happy to. That'd be great.
Oh, thanks so much. Okay. Bye-bye now.